back, gentlemen. Literally straight off the flight from Arizona.
Right from the airport.
Yeah. Oh my God, the dedication to both Bob Dylan and to Songs of Experience. I mean, that's why you guys are my ride or die when it comes to Bob Dylan. So.
Tomorrow is no good, so.
Right, that's true. You were out tomorrow. So this is an emergency podcast to talk about the first show in the Outlaw Tour 2025. Last year, Adam, you were at Alpharetta, Georgia, and then immediately hopped on a Zoom with Robin Haar to do an emergency podcast. So thank you guys for being here for this bonus. I had the privilege of being on a Zoom call. I was explaining to my Swiftie friends the vibes last night of all of us being on the Zoom call and listening to the live stream. It was exactly like it was in Swiftyland when we were all on our computers watching a grainy live stream, guessing the outfits and the set list and everything. So thank you, Adam, for providing that. Let's just dive right in. I mean, he starts out with the set list exactly the same as Rough and Rowdy Waste.
This is what I predicted, like right before I think I said in that same Zoom call that my last prediction is going to be the first two songs same as last tour, then the rest will be about like last Outlaw show.
Okay. And what was your reaction when, I mean, I could hear you say, I'll be your baby. Michael, what was your reaction when it was like the same? Was there any disappointment? Was there surprise?
Not at all. I mean, we had talked about it and I kind of agreed that that's what I thought was going to happen. The arrangement was the same, but it had a longer intro with a more noodling.
Was he playing guitar?
No,
Bob was not playing.
No, not on I'll Be Your Baby. No, he played it on It Ain't Me Baby.
But I thought it was Cold Irons Bound because it had that kind of
They've been doing that like primordial ooze. It's like they're covering tuning by the Grateful Dead. Well, it looks like they're tuning. It sounds kind of like they're tuning, but they're not tuning anything.
Right, they're playing.
So it's just this like weird primordial ooze out of which suddenly a song emerges.
But other than that, the arrangement for I'll Be Your Baby was same as we saw it last month.
About the same.
It was similar, and it was a fine performance.
Were the crowd into it?
Yeah. They seem to be more so than some of the crowds that was around last year.
I guess the crowd now, a year later, they are into the whole Outlaw thing. They're like, since they saw Bob Dylan last year and liked it, presumably. They were excited. They sort of maybe were excited to see him again this time. I don't know.
Maybe.
What was the vibe?
You don't hear the Willie people afterwards saying, "Wow, he really knocked me out. I was surprised." Yes.
Were there other Bob people around you, or
we talked to Sergey afterwards? Okay. But. No, not really. I didn't really notice anybody else around us moving out about it.
Okay, but they seemed respectful.
Yeah,
they were quiet. They were watching.
There wasn't the constant.
There wasn't like heckling or anything.
No, unlike Tinley Park where that was happening right around me.
Yeah, right. So goes right into It Ain't Me, Babe, the second song on the set list.
Yeah, well, I'd expected that. So I still thought it was supposedly going to be like last year's Outlaw show after that, but. There was the moment right after where, it's probably not going to be I Contain Multitudes. That means really anything could happen right now.
Okay, before we get to that, did he play guitar on It Ain't Me, Babe? Yeah. Same thing, turned around, back to the audience. Did he do that actual solo of the melody, or was he sort of noodling?
It sounded like the spring.
It sounded like the spring, yeah.
Okay, great. All right,
listen, one thing we have missed is that after Billy Strings played, they reeled out an upright piano. And then it became clear, it looked like it was hollow from the back. It's like all backed with all kinds of like silver padding. And then they were shining a light on it and made it look like the piano was glowing. And, it's a good dodge against having your picture taken with flash from the stage. But also, it looked so different. It's like, there's a different vibe here.
Was he standing up the whole time? Did he sit down at all?
I think he was sitting. He must have been standing up since we could see him.
I think he alternated, between sitting and standing.
It wasn't upright.
But you were watching the screen, did you see his head the entire time?
No way.
He was so small on the screen that it was hard to tell.
In addition to the glowing piano, he set up like this bonsai tree light thing, bonsai tree size thing of lights I don't even know how to describe it other than like a bonsai tree. So,
people
but
can look
it
at the
blocked,
pictures,
but on the it exactly blocked his face from the cameras. So
I mean,
as
Matt
long as he
Steichen
held
posted
still,
that like he is like doing everything he can to not be visible. It's
so I mean,
he's actively being antagonistic.
Anytime he leaned back, you could see him just fine.
Okay.
On the screen, but as long as he held still, that thing would obscure his face like a veil.
Okay, I did go into a little bit of panic last night because when you said he's as an upright, because for the birthday show I'm going to be on the Doug Lancio side in row P, and like if he sits, I'm screwed. Like, I'll just move over to the other side. And the second night, Gorge, I'll be on the Bob Britt side on the side, so I think I'll have that same view.
Either that, or you'll have the bonsai tree.
Or I'll have the bonsai
tree
the whole time. Okay, all right. Well, I'm not going to worry about that. So different set. Anything different about the band? They seemed all the.
I would have thought it was a different band.
I think they sounded very.
Sounded very different. Yeah.
Wow.
Mainly because Doug Lancio is now playing electric guitar too.
No, did he play any acoustic?
I don't think there was any acoustic.
He played acoustic on All Along the Watchtower, and believe it or not, that's the only time I noticed an acoustic guitar.
Yeah, it was also a lot more crashing chords.
Doug was on acoustic and Bob Britt was on electric for that, and it was a phenomenal arrangement.
Yeah, I definitely want to get to that. So that anticipation, that like sort of holding your breath before the third song, and then he starts Forgetful Heart for the first time since 2015.
Yeah,
and.
I thought I wouldn't have thought it was
I saw the first one, as you guys did.
Yep, we
didn't know each other, but July 1st, 2009, with Willie at the Summerfest,
and it was just a stunner, that live debut too.
Yeah,
and that was also a very acoustic version. This is a very electric version.
What do you mean by that?
Electric guitar.
No, I know what that means, but like. How did it sound different? Like, was it richer and fuller?
It was a little richer and fuller than the very stripped back version of before. It was very atmospheric too. A different kind of atmospheric than that first arrangement.
When did you first notice it was Forgetful Heart? Like, could you tell right away? Like, on the Zoom I could tell, and like Olivia was like, "How did you know it's Forgetful Heart?" I'm like, I
didn't know until he started singing.
Oh,
but
I don't feel like you could ever know exactly what he's going for until he starts singing, because he might have borrowed the melody from something or whatever.
But we knew it was not "I Contain Multitudes" because we could tell it was in a minor key.
Right.
You know, it was sort of like you heard these electric guitars playing minor key chords. And so we knew right away.
That was just the little primordial jam, and then suddenly it would have switched to the major key.
But it's pretty standard, other than the electrified version of it, pretty standard Forgetful Heart. Like the arrangement was the same as the
album. It was totally different.
Wow.
I mean, because I think it was always finger picked.
Yeah.
From 2009 on. I mean, I don't think it ever changed from that arrangement. And there was no finger picking. It was the guitars came in loud at the end of every line.
Yeah.
So it's like he would sing one line and then they would come in loud.
Piano wasn't as noticeable.
Yeah.
The piano was there, but I don't feel like it was quite as prominent.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Was that thrilling to hear Forgetful Heart for the first time in 10 years?
Amazing.
Yeah, I didn't think it had been 10 years. I thought it probably came up at some point during the Sinatra song era.
It said 2015.
Yeah, but it was it was 2015, and 10 years.
That's
and
crazy.
It was great too. It's like
it's like seeing an old friend.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, and that song was always a highlight anyway. Yeah. So there were a lot of songs last night that I've been to shows where that would have been the highlight.
So the next song, this is the fun controversy of the first Bob mystery that got solved pretty fast. So
it took a while, man.
It took 12 hours.
Like I don't remember the last time we didn't know what a song was.
So I've got three different versions of the set list in front of me. We've got Bob Links, BobDylan.com, and Bob Serve. Now, last night, it was unclear what that was. We all went to sleep not knowing what it was. Adam, you thought, could it perhaps be a new song?
I dared to hope a little.
You dared to hope?
Yeah.
It was clearly a blues song.
Right.
Did you recognize anything about it other than its blues nature?
No, I felt certain it was a cover. And while he was singing it, I was Google searching the lyrics that I was hearing.
Same.
And nothing was coming up. And my conclusion was, this is an obscure blues song, but it's a cover.
Yeah.
That was my feeling. And I was updating the Twitter group chat.
Yeah.
And for that song I wrote, because I was doing it song by song, I told everyone unidentified blues cover.
Mhm.
That's how I
Right.
identified it.
Well, I had typed out what I could into the Zoom chats just a little bit,
Yes.
and someone said "Never Can Tell" by Chuck Berry. So I decided, oh, it's "Never Can Tell" by Chuck Berry. I don't know that one. I'll have to look it up. It's a good song.
Right.
And so I put it out of my mind for the rest of the set until we were like talking with Sergey later and realized still people that's not Chuck Berry's song.
Right.
And no one seems to have figured that out. And in this day and age, we were talking. If this had been like a 1920s blues song, the lyrics would definitely be online. But because it's like a late 60s one, I feel like late 60s blues hasn't been as obsessively covered as earlier blues.
Right. It hasn't been around long enough, which is kind of funny. But I mean, so last night, just to tell you guys what was going on while you were writing your reviews and going to bed or whatever, or rocking out to Willie, everyone was freaking out. Bob Links, posted the set list and it just said unknown song.
Yeah,
sure you saw that this morning.
We were following all this at Waffle House.
Yeah, okay, Waffle House, and then the Bob Dylan fan club. There's a lot of chatter with Caroline and Kate about it, and it was just Bob Serve had put out something like unidentified Bob song.
Yeah,
and. So the first thing I did when I woke up, because I'm insane, was I listened to what you posted, and I Googled the lyrics. And it came up pretty quickly, Axe in the Wind, by
but by then it was coming up.
Okay, so like
by then the BobDylan.com.
Yeah, so this morning BobDylan.com had updated it, and they usually take a full day, a full night, or whatever. But and then of course Bob Serve is issuing its retractions and corrections and quote posting you and
lyrics.
Bob Links finally got to it eventually.
He did rewrite the lyrics a little bit.
Okay, so say more on that.
There's a line in his version. I know enough women to sing the low down blues. And that's something about shoes in the Willie Dixon lines.
Yeah, so that's the line I Googled because that was what you posted, and that it didn't really match it quite well, but Google did enough work to find it. But then there was a little controversy of who it was attributed to.
Yeah,
because first it was attributed to Charlie Butler,
Gary Wildman Butler,
Gary or something like then but it actually was attributed. It's actually written by Willie Dixon, not the other way around.
Yeah,
so that was interesting.
Well, there's
mystery solved.
Yeah, well, Mike and I have discussed this. There's nothing like being in a Dylan show and not knowing what song he's doing when he's just started one out and you don't know what song it is yet.
But what about by the end of the song when you still don't know it?
It's the best feeling in the world.
Really? Really? I would find that so anxiety.
It's got a mystery to solve too,
Mm-hmm.
And I just thought that information would be out there by the time the show was over.
Yeah.
So that was the funny thing, was just hours going by. And Adam was saying in Waffle House, he's like, if that song was a cover, the lyrics would be online.
Yeah. I mean, I remember like when he first did "Searching for a Soldier's Grave" and Pagel posted it as "In Search of His Grave," and we were all freaking out for about
thought it was a new
most of the days. Nobody could figure out what that was. Then somebody figured out it was "Searching for a Soldier's Grave."
Wow.
And that was 20 some years ago. It was a lot harder to Google these things.
It was like 2001.
And now by the time we get out of the show, everybody's figured out what that was. Especially if there's enough lyrics.
But this one they didn't.
This one, the lyrics were not on Google anywhere.
Yeah.
But okay, so now tell me about the performance of "Axe in the Wind." It was a tight rip-roaring blues song.
Yeah.
The band seemed prepared.
The whole show was tight. I mean, that was the other thing that I think impressed us both.
Yeah.
Was he did 4 live debuts, and it sounded like they had all been rehearsed.
Yeah, I mean, especially the faster songs can be kind of like the first time he did "Truckin'," or a lot of the faster songs, especially if he hasn't rehearsed them too much, you can tell.
I mean, Watchtower was pretty sloppy all tour
that's
last
true.
year.
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah, and that was tight last night.
Wow. Okay, well, let's get that. All right, I got 2 words for you.
We'll get to that one.
To Ramona. The first time since 2017.
Yeah.
I personally don't think I have ever seen a To Ramona. Maybe once. You probably have because you've seen everything. But do you guys have a recollection of having seen a To Ramona at some point down the road?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Tell me
I've
about
seen
the
a
arrangement
couple
of this one, and
this
was it
one-
thrilling when that started, when
It
you
was.
said the name Ramona?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there were a number of times last night where as soon as he started playing, I knew it was a song that I knew, but without
Right.
being able to identify it.
Mm.
And that's how I felt about To Ramona. It's like I could hear the melody just in the instrumental music.
Right.
And I, would say, I know it, Adam.
Yeah.
It's like on the tip of your brain.
Yeah,
and
then you start singing it.
But then he beats you to it.
Right.
Bob beats you to it by singing Ramona, Come Closer,
Right.
Shut Softly or whatever.
Yeah.
Did you guys do the
That was the
yeah.
first fist in the air,
Yeah.
And I think people around us must have been like, why are they freaking out?
I mean, I wouldn't call it a deep cut. Like,
It's not that deep, but
it was so unexpected after the past 5 years.
yeah, when those '60s acoustic songs just haven't been coming up.
right. In 8 years, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
yeah. That's
And it was a great version. I mean, he played the harmonica on it.
oh my God, you're
And
killing
he was
me.
really sticking with the melody too.
Yeah.
It wasn't. It
Those
was
60 songs, he seems to be kind of mostly sticking with the melody, right?
more or less. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
this I remember like in the early 2000s, this To Ramona was pretty common in the acoustic set. It was almost much more spoken. Ramona come closer, cause softly, water. Yeah. Oh, it was the way he was singing back then.
Mhm.
Last night it felt like it really emphasized the melody.
Da, 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 na, 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 na.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh my God. Any tears for that one or
The tears came later.
Okay, all right. All right. So I was shocked that the next song, Route 66, Bob has never played live. I know there was a rehearsal where he played it.
Yeah, it was an informal jam at a hotel in New Zealand.
That doesn't count.
And there's no vocals on it either. It's just some brief somebody noodles on the piano.
Of all the crazy cover, famous blues, classic rockabilly songs he's covered, he's never played Route 66.
Yeah, surprising.
Were you guys surprised by that? Or?
A little. I thought it probably came up on one of those 1986 shows where he was doing all kinds of covers.
Yeah, I mean, I knew what it was as soon as he started singing it, and I assumed he had done it before. But it was great because he sings Flagstaff, Arizona in the song.
Yeah.
So people got excited about that.
Do you think it's a one-off in that case?
It may have been.
Yeah.
That may have prompted him to do it because apparently Route 66 went by Phoenix, which I did not know until later. But it was fun. Like it was, he sang it really well.
He sang it really well, yeah. So it was another almost a surprise. You think that song's a mouthful,
Yeah,
a lot of words.
A lot of words.
He clearly rehearsed it.
Wow. Oh, he wasn't just kind of running through the.
No, he wasn't just kind of slurring through it like that first time through Truckin' or anything.
Right.
He sang it like he meant it and like he'd been working on it.
Oh my God. All right. You mentioned it a few times. Watchtower, typically a song we have heard thousands of times. It is his most played song,
it is
I
my
believe.
most seen song.
And we saw it several times last year. It even made its way into Rough and Rowdy a little bit in Europe. Tell me about this arrangement of Watchtower, Michael. Go ahead.
Well, I would say people who are curious about the show don't sleep on this version.
Okay.
I mean, everyone's going to want to hear all the bust outs
Right.
first, but this one was one of the highlights of the night. I mean, it was the best arrangement I've ever heard. As everyone has pointed out, he switches keys. It goes from a minor key to a major key halfway through each verse.
What?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the song is A minor, F, G, A minor, F, G.
Yeah,
right?
he does the first two lines that way, and then it's all major chords for the next two lines. Which makes it almost feel like he's singing, like the second half of the verse is the chorus.
The major chord, minor lift.
The
reverse.
Exactly,
Or the minor chord, the major lift.
Well, he starts out with the minor fall, then the major lift.
The major lift, so that was thrilling. And, the other thing that was great about it was I've heard that song so many times. It's always kind of fun. It's always good because the band jams.
Right.
It's an excuse to jam.
It's usually a cue that the show is
coming to an end. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
not at this point.
But
or this is the third song of the night.
Right.
but he
The 90s.
sang it really well. It was those major, normally what he does is he kind of talks through it and
Right.
then he draws out the last syllable
Right.
of each verse.
Right.
Like that's
Yeah.
the singing.
Right.
And here it's like he really sang it.
Because there must be some way out of here. Like really?
The new chords really forced him to. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And it was acoustic, you said?
One acoustic and one electric.
So Doug was playing acoustic guitar.
Yeah,
Yes.
and
could you really hear the acoustic?
You could hear the acoustic and you could hear the electric.
So he's kind of merging John Wesley Harding and Jimmy together.
The electric was doing a riff that I thought for a second was. It took me a second to figure out what song it was. I was. No one told me about it. It's it's She's Not There by the Zombies.
Oh, it wasn't Okay. Wow.
And yeah, it was so cool.
That's
and
amazing.
I've also seen people compare it to like the Year of the Cats, and I can see that too.
Did people recognize that song?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. That got a big response.
Really?
Actually, yeah. Not as big as Tambourine Man later.
Yeah.
But
he did like he often does, where he goes back and does the first verse again at the end.
Yep.
Because the song is
Yes.
Mobius Strip.
Was there a big guitar solo in the middle, or from Rob Red?
I don't
not like
believe
a really
so.
wailing one.
No, harmonica, piano.
I can't remember.
Okay, yeah, I know. I know. I'm asking.
I just remember it kicked ass.
Okay, like in a highlight of the night.
In a way that really surprised me. Yeah.
Right after the Black Rider spot too. I mean,
Yeah,
right
yeah.
in the my own version of you spot, right? Okay. I'll Make It All Up to You, Charlie Rich. I don't know this song.
No, it's a country classic.
Country classic.
Yeah.
I did not know it.
Oh.
And I'm a fan of Charlie Rich and Jerry Lee Lewis. I think he's doing the Jerry Lee Lewis version. That's my feeling.
Upright piano, right?
Yeah. And I think it was more of a hit. It was a Jerry Lee did it for Sun in 58.
Okay.
And I think that's what he was doing.
Okay.
But I didn't know that until I Googled it,
Yeah.
Did you know this one?
No, I didn't.
Yeah.
It was once again, it's an outlaw show. You can be on your phone, and so we're googling it.
Yeah.
And I found that one right away.
Yeah.
So
Were you Googling the lyrics?
yeah, just googling a couple of lyrics, and it came right up.
Yeah.
And it was it's nice that it was there. It was a well performed song. It just doesn't has like the oomph factor of some of the others from last night. It didn't have that aura of mystery of Axe in the Wind. It was easy enough to find,
But
it was very good.
At this point in the show, every
every
from
song
3
is
on,
very
it's just, you don't know what's happening.
Every song was, holy shit, is
Yeah.
this really happening?
Yeah, every song, the anticipation before we started another one, because there was never a point where we could guess what the next song was going to be.
And let's be real here. The premise of all this is the three of us are in Chicago right now. You guys made a decision after Adam last year, that experience of there's nothing like being at the first show of a tour when you don't know what is going to happen.
Right.
You guys made a decision to spend about,
Whatever.
40 hours, 36 hours, fly to Arizona from Chicago, see that experience.
Knowing that it was probably going to be like an hour, 70-minute show.
Right, 13 songs, right? Even less
from
than
the lawn.
Right, yeah, lawn. And so confirmed it lived up to the hype.
Well,
right?
well,
it was
I hadn't hyped up so much that I really expected there were going to be surprises. You should never do that.
But there were.
There were, yeah. Well, same as Alpharetta last time. I assumed, like talking to Ray on the way in, we assumed it would still be about half Rough and Rowdy stuff, and then maybe some of the other Shadow Kingdom stuff mixing in, or maybe a surprise or two. That was kind of where the smart money was. Mm-hmm. But again, we didn't know what it was going to be. The rumor was that they'd asked him to do his early stuff.
Right.
And I felt like afterwards, like, okay, you want early, here's early Roman Kings. You don't want my new album, here's 4 songs from the previous album. And you want my early stuff, here's 5 songs from the 50s that I used to play in my garage.
Right. So, I mean, would you say, Michael, that it was worth it?
Oh my God, it was
Yeah.
the best.
Yeah.
It was the best decision I've ever made.
Okay.
In terms of buying a plane ticket
Right.
to fly to, because the reason why we all go see multiple shows is this is what we're hoping
Right,
for.
right.
It's like every show is good, every show is unique, but some are more unique than others.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it's like hunting for mushrooms or something, where you want a show that's going to be wild and surprising in terms of what he plays and how he plays it.
Right.
And so last night it's like
opening night of a new tour is the most likely place to see something like that.
Yeah.
Right. So number 9, It Takes a Lot to Laugh, It Takes a Train to Cry. Saw it many times in 2019, I assume.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you've seen it over the years.
I saw it at my first show, and then not again until like 19, I don't think.
Well, I mean, I had never seen it until 2019. It was one of those ones I'd been chasing.
Yeah, it was for a long time. It wasn't common at all.
Wow. So how was it? Another 60s?
I think it was great. But
good made better by the additional electric guitar.
Yeah, I think it was great, but the highlights of this show, which we haven't even gotten to yet,
we're getting
so high that it made it hard to remember all the other things that happened that also were great. You know what I mean?
It would have been. There are shows where It Takes a Train to Cry would have been the highlight,
right?
But this one, there's this. Yeah, we haven't even gotten to the real highs.
Well, all right. So before we get to those real highs, so
it was already an excellent show.
What was the arrangement? Was it pretty much like it was in 2019, or
pretty
like the album
with more electric guitar?
Yeah.
Okay, great. All right. Mr. Tambourine Man, first time since 2010. 2010.
Yeah.
15 years, a decade and a half.
I didn't think it would be
that is really going deep. That's what we
I
call
thought there
it.
was like
Fish
a
fans call a bust out.
That's a bust out.
I thought that there were a couple. I thought there was maybe a one-off in the late 2010s or something.
There was not.
There was not. Yeah.
So tell me about that. And I listened to a little bit of this, just snippets, because I want to get the whole thing when I'm there. But if he keeps it inside, but like this was a true to original version with real singing, similar to "It's All Over Now, Baby Blue" from last year.
I thought it was true to the 1995 version.
Okay.
It was kind of stripped down, prayer-like.
Yeah, prayer-like. Just
but
kind of acoustic-y, just piano, or
there were other instruments around it. It was just kind of sparse, lush but sparse.
Yeah, lush but sparse.
Yeah.
So would you say similar to "It's All Over Now, Baby Blue" and "Desolation Row" has been?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
To me, the loudest things were the piano and Tony's bass. Tony was playing the upright bass, and Tony really, I think, was driving it.
Wow.
Yeah. And Bob, it was similar to Baby Blue from the spring in the sense that, Bob's, sometimes he would go faster, sometimes he would go slower, right? And I think Tony was kind of following along.
Mm-hmm.
And
then I think the other guys were just, adding
flavors.
What was the drum?
I don't
like,
remember. I haven't listened to it back to it yet.
I don't remember there being drums.
I was so locked in on the singing.
Yeah, his voice was the loudest thing. And it
Is this when the tears came?
Yeah.
For you?
For me, yeah, it was about.
I think you wrote in your review.
I was a wreck at the end of it. I figured out what it was because there was like in the piano intro there's do 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 or something.
Yeah.
One of those little 3 or 4
Just
note
got
things
you.
that was like, this is Tambourine Man.
Oh.
And it's if pressed on what's your favorite song, that's usually what I'll say.
Wow.
As long as it's a version that has the last verse.
Yeah.
I'm always hesitant if people just think of like the Byrds version or something, which they probably do, that's missing all the good verses.
Right. And he did all the verses.
He didn't do the Ragged Clown version.
Oh, okay.
As he usually doesn't, except in '95 when he did that instead of Magic Swirling Ship.
Mm-hmm. But he did, Take Me Disappearing, which was the greatest. And
that last verse.
The stripped down arrangement really made you focus on the words. So it reminded me of almost something like the Shadow Kingdom version of Just Like Tom Thump's Blues. You know how that became like a poem.
Yes.
It became a spoken word poetry
meditation,
recital.
prayer, yeah.
And you kind of heard it differently. I mean, that's the way I felt about Tambourine.
The phrasing towards the end with the descending notes thing that he does sometimes. You forget about today.
After a year of living with a complete unknown, where the song you don't see him performing it in the movie. It's only in a transitional part when he's on the motorcycle, and then it's on the credits.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure what I'm trying to ask you, but was there some sort of emotional connection between seeing that movie over and over and over again and loving that movie and seeing that beautiful performance in that movie and then hearing the real guy do the real thing in the way that your memory has it?
We talked about the fact that and following It Takes a Lot to Laugh, like those are two A Complete Unknown songs.
There's
that's my favorite scene. I love that's my favorite version of It Takes a Lot.
So I remember mentioning to Mike, this is another Complete Unknown song. We've been speculating how much of it might end up in it. He could have done Song to Woody or something.
Right.
Tambourine Man in the movie, you don't see him play it, but two people ask him for it.
Right.
When he's at 11th All parties, I love Tambourine Man, Bobby, and then and then at Newport they've actually got like the guy who's on the tape going Tambourine Man, Bobby, Tambourine Man.
Yeah.
So like the guy who's saying congratulations on Rocky Horror.
And then actually at the real Newport, he did play it begrudgingly, but they didn't have time for that in the movie.
Right.
And It's All Over Now. Baby Blue is such a great way to end that scene. So yes, that was you did feel that connection between the two things.
I mean, I'm not going to say he definitely played it because it was in the movie,
because people asked for it in the movie.
But it did, But it did, I thought about the film while
and you guys even mentioned
I think the film crossed my mind briefly while he was playing it. I was mostly thinking of like seeing it at my first show in '95. And mentioning when we have that, what do you want a hospice care to play for you if the music therapist comes in? And I've specifically said the last verse of this. And all of it.
Wow, I know your two deathbed songs. Key West and Mr. Timber. Now I've got to think of mine.
All of this, I haven't been a wreck like that in a Dylan concert in a long time.
Wow.
Well, occasionally. But this, it just kicked my ass.
It really moved you.
I think I was like, Tess, I am an absolute wreck right now. Like, in a way that I'm normally not from much of anything. I'm the MTV generation. We feel neither highs nor lows.
Right. Wow. I mean, that's just... I really hope he keeps it in the set list. Just 10 more days.
I have a feeling he will.
You think this is going to be a tentpole?
Well, that was the one stripped down song. And so last summer it was Can't Wait. And I think he kind of
makes much more sense for a festival crowd.
Yeah, I think he kind of knows with the festival crowd he can get away with it once. With the theater shows, Rough and Rowdy, he was doing it 3 times. It was My Own Version of You, Key West, and Baby Blue. It's like he can't do that for.
Right. I hope it stays. I mean, I've just got to hang on for a few more days. I've only seen Mr. Tambourine Man once.
Yeah.
So in my 44 times seeing Bob Dylan. So. All right, next he brought back something from last year's, a highlight from last year, Under the Red Sky. Was it great seeing Under the Red Sky?
It was.
Under the red sky of Arizona?
Yeah, well, they had like red light too. It was all the whole set was kind of bathed in red light, and I thought the guitar sound was kind of red, personally. And Doug on this one played a wicked solo with that album. The album licks are on there.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
that's great.
It was terrific. And also, I had been thinking. I'll go into this. I mentioned this on my review for Ray's site. While we were in Tulsa, I looked at the drafts of Under the Red Sky. And on the margins of like the first page, he's got like a list of like what I guess are like influences or ideas for what he wants the song to be like. And on the top of it, Animal Farm is in there. And at the top, he's written John, Jack, and Diane, then Robert Plant. which suggests to me that Under the Red Sky is like Jack and Diane if Robert Plant wrote it,
Mm-hmm.
which is really a very good description of of that song. And then so last year touring with Robert Plant and John Mellencamp on the bill at different times, I wondered is that why he broke it out?
So does this
No, this just means he must have liked it.
Yeah,
So,
kept it. Yeah. Is this the only thing that stayed from that? No, Amy Babe.
Yeah,
okay.
and Scarlet Town was in Alpharetta too.
Right. So and Under the Red Sky, I mean, that was in the first one, Alpharetta?
Yeah.
Under the Red Sky had made it.
Time.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Which is fitting. I mean,
Yes.
I don't know why. It just sounds like a summery song.
It does.
Yeah.
It's one that, this is the type of Bob Dylan show you can bring your kids to.
Right.
So and it's basically a kid's song.
Yeah.
That was also at my first show.
Really?
That's 3 songs in a row. Train to Cry, Tambourine, and Under the Red Sky
were all your
at
first
Atlanta
show?
95.
You're kidding.
And Under the Red Sky I didn't know at the time. And then I was remember looking through the lyrics 62 to 85 book, trying to, what was that song about? There was a little boy and there was a little girl. But it was too recent to be in that book. Took me a
was
while.
it the same arrangement as last year, pretty much?
I think so.
What you can
Yeah.
A
remember?
little bit more guitar.
More guitar. And then
And he played harp on it too, which was
Really?
great.
Oh,
Great harp
right,
solo.
Right. Did you do that last year? I think so. Maybe.
Can't remember.
I think so. And then speaking of the color red, Scarlet Town comes back.
Exactly. The two red songs.
Was that just perfect? I mean, just having those two back to back.
I didn't stop to think about the color match.
But it was perfect.
Yeah. But how was that arrangement? Also,
a little bit more electric than previous. Yeah.
And Anton's drumming made a big impression on me because it had kind of that sort of almost like tropical sound. You know what I mean? It was like kind of swampy sounding.
Oh.
It was great.
God, Anton now on the Outlaw tour. I mean, Keltner was definitely recognizable as Keltner on the tour last year. You knew it was like a familiar thing. It was like, this is Jim Keltner playing with Bob Dylan. We know what we're getting. But there were moments of not sloppy. I don't know.
Right. It was a little bit. It was rougher. Yeah.
And obviously, of course, the wrench issue. Bob.
Right. I definitely did not get the impression over the course of Outlaw that they'd really worked on this show too much.
Last year.
Yeah, last year. Last year, I felt like, okay, let's get together. We'll just get together and jam.
Right.
And they might have got together and jammed out the new arrangement to Highway 61, etc., and made sure they knew Shooting Star. But it was still, it felt very informal last year,
right?
Which is great. But this time, I really felt like they had taken the time. It's only been 3 weeks or so since the end of the last tour, so they haven't had much time to work on this.
Now we know what Bob has been doing for 3 weeks. I mean,
besides posting the fake Al Capone monologue,
right?
Which is Al Capone fake monologues go not too bad.
You guys both said this felt very rehearsed. Like this was a tight.
The arrangements were tight. The singing was tight.
Well, often even in the spring, he would do this thing that always is a little disturbing, which is he starts singing far away from the mic, so you can't hear the first line of a verse.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of it's because he's standing and sitting, so he moves the mic himself.
That gives me so much anxiety.
Yeah.
Like he's never going to make it in time.
Yes. And it's like, why not have 2 mics that are preset
right.
to your seat? There was none of that. It's like he always came in right where he needed to, and you could hear him clearly. So that made it feel tight,
Bob introduced the band. Any jokes? Just straight up?
Yeah, very straightforward. Just said their names, their instruments. He did say thank you earlier.
Yeah, earlier he said thank you, and then huh.
I love when he does
the one random laugh.
Do you remember when? Just earlier. Yeah.
It was one of, I don't know, around 3 or 4.
Rather.
Yeah, it's pretty early to mid.
And then just when you think, I mean, you didn't know this was going to be the last song. 13, 15 was the final number last year, but then the first 2 shows that you saw, Adam Alpharetta and the one after that, were also 13. So he ended with 13 songs. I mean, covering the Pogues. Mike, you must have been a wreck.
Okay.
A Rainy Night in Soho? Come on.
One of my favorite songs of all time. I would say a strong contender for the most romantic song of all time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I'm very proud of the fact that I identified it before he even started singing.
Really?
I turned to him. I said, Rainy Night in Soho. And Adam looked a little confused. And but that riff is very memorable, and
but he could just be using that riff for a different song.
Exactly.
This is going to be When I Paint My Masterpiece. And I was just thinking, this is force. Is he really doing another slow song? He just did 3.
Yeah, and I knew it was the last song. I mean, you can't do anything else after this.
Oh, you did. You're like, this is the way
I thought he'd do Rolling Stone or something, or Rainy Day Women, some crowd pleasing encore track.
I felt like because he introduced the band beforehand and then realizing what it was, I thought it's like when Nirvana did, Where Did You Sleep Last Night? And they asked Kurt to do something else, and he's like, no, you can't top that. You cannot top. A Rainy Night in Soho.
Right. 2 artists
until tomorrow night when he does bring back another song, right?
I've been guilty of speaking in hyperbole a lot, especially when it comes to Bob, but honestly, it was one of the most beautifully sung performances I've ever heard him do.
This song in particular.
This song. Yeah. He nailed it. Like I even said earlier on the Discord, you could release it as a single. Yeah. He sang it clearly, melodically, and with emotion. You could feel the emotion in the lyrics. He meant something to him, and you could feel that from his singing. And what it meant was it was a tribute to Shane MacGowan, right? Who he loves. Right. And that is the Pogues' second most famous song. With good reason. That's one of their 2 signature songs.
It's
Dirty Old Town, the other one, or
no, Fairy Tale of New York.
Oh, okay.
Fairy Tale.
Well, there's it wouldn't normally be one of the Pogues. I love the Pogues. I saw them. I actually was thinking of them on the way into the hotel as we pulled in, because there were like a couple of different airport Hamptons. So I was thinking, I hope this is we're not just going to the wrong one. Then I randomly remembered when I saw the Pogues of the Riviera about 15 years ago. Ike Riley played his sets, then they played through the pre-show playlist, then they played through the pre-show playlist again, and then they played through it again. It was like a 3-hour gap after Ike Riley played. And it later turned out that Shane went to the wrong venue.
He went to the Aragon.
He went to the House of Blues.
Oh, went all the way downtown. Oh, God.
So I had actually been thinking of the Pogues.
That's funny.
Rainy Night in Soho is for all the being one of their signatures. I knew the B-sides first. The first I was able to hear them, I remember very vividly driving to high school, had the college station on, and the band played Waltzing Matilda. And I immediately went to like Media Play and typed that title into the little like Computertron thing. And found out what song that was. Found out it was this band, the Pogues. I'd heard Tom Waits talking about them, but I had no idea what they sounded like or anything. And then I went to find one of their CDs, and you couldn't. The late 90s Pogue CDs were out of print. You couldn't find them anywhere.
Wow.
I had a friend in New York go around to record stores trying to get Pogue CDs for me, and the only ones were the couple from Post Shane.
Wow, that's amazing.
And finally, the only thing I was able to do was tape trading. One guy had Pogues, B-sides, and rarities on his list. So I got that, and there was a version of Band Played Waltzing Matilda on there. There were a lot of the songs they did with the Dubliners, a lot of traditional stuff, like their version of The Parting Glass was on there. And it definitely made me keep working until I was able to get more of their songs. But Rainy Night in Soho isn't one that I knew as well as a lot of the others. But that when he sang the last line, "The Measure of My Dreams," it's whatever part of me hadn't been wrecked by Tambourine Man is wrecked now.
Wow. What is your personal history with the Pogues?
Well, I was into them before Shane got kicked out of the band. I listened to them in high school, and their 2 greatest albums, If I Should Fall from Grace with God, which is the one that has Fairy Tale of New York, and then the one before that,
Rum Sodomy and the Lash.
Which Elvis Costello produced. Those are their 2 masterpieces. But I have all their albums, the ones that Shane sings on. And so that song last night, to hear Bob sing it gained poignance because he's old. You know what I mean? It was like hearing Forever Young in Shadow Kingdom, where it's like he's singing it to himself in a way.
Yeah.
And that's the vibe I got because there's the line about, little girls and boys in Rainy Night in Soho. And, I'm not dreaming of the future. I'm not thinking of the
It's
past,
similar in a way I was thinking to when Willie does Last Leaf by Tom Waits.
Yes.
Totally. As much as I like that when other people sing it, when Tom himself sings it, when Willie sings it at the age of 92, saying I'm the last leaf on the tree, and the crowd always reacts so well to I'll be here for eternity, you want to know how long, if they cut down the tree I'll just come back in a song.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that Willie's singing that at 92 has so much more resonance than if he were singing it at 50.
Yeah, totally. Can I share my personal experience with the Pogues?
Please.
So I'm in a folk music group at the Old Town School of Folk Music, and right when we went into lockdown, it was like, what do we do? Everyone panicked like everyone did, but we continued the classes on Zoom, and it was kind of like teachers would play the song, the other teacher would teach us the melody or whatever, and then we'd mute ourselves and then learn it, and it kind of worked. And what we would do is at the end of every session, instead of a performance at where all the classes perform, I figured out how I basically had everyone. I recorded everyone individually one by one. I put it together in GarageBand and then later in iMovie and had a performance. It was one of those pandemic things where it was really inspirational because we were all together, far apart, together but apart, whatever, all those
Right.
hashtags,
Right.
But the first one I did was we the first song we really did when we went into lockdown was we had been working on Dirty Old Town, and I was the only one in the group who played harmonica, so I learned that harmonica intro that he does, and we put it together and we nailed it. And then so I've always had a love for them. That's when I went into a deep dive on them. I didn't know them that well. I knew them a little bit just as a music fan, and I knew Bob Dylan, knew them and loved them. And as this past St. Patrick's Day, our teacher brought it back, and it was the first time we had played it together live in the room.
I want to hear it.
Since then, I will happily play it for you. It's on. I put it on YouTube, and so I have a soft spot in my heart for the Pogues and for that song, and certainly for the song. And anytime you were this, I think this is what you were expressing. Anytime Bob Dylan sings something that you care about outside of Bob Dylan, it's all the more meaningful.
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And that doesn't happen a whole lot.
It's like when he did Grateful Dead. I was like, Stella Blue. I'm totally. Dying.
Normally when I hear a cover by Bob, it's usually a song I don't know or know that well.
Yeah, most often it's an old bluegrass or
or a blues song. Walking by Myself.
Right.
Which and you love it. You're like, oh, this is cool.
Now I know that one.
It to you. But to hear him do this song that I already love was just
amazing,
incredible.
Let's do top 3 or 4 highlights from each of you, and then just real quick, let's think about that for a second. Think about what are your top 3 or 4 highlights from the night. Tell me, while you're thinking about that, tell me about the rest of Outlaw. How did it stack up with the other performers? From last year. Sierra Hull, Billy.
People.
Did you stay for Willie? How's Willie doing? All that stuff.
So Sierra Hull did her moody, brooding mandolin version of Mad World by Tears for Fears.
Oh, cool! I love her. I mean, she's one of my mandolin heroes as a mandolin.
Yeah, she was terrific. Billy Strings started out doing mostly just straight up old bluegrass songs, but then did this spacey. I compared it to spacey getaway music.
What does that mean?
Getaway music, like ding 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 ding.
Okay. Like getaway,
just rob a bank,
sort of like Benny Hill but less silly,
right? But then this jam band bluegrass stuff that was space getaway music. I felt like I was running away from the sheriff in my land speeder on Tatooine.
Mm-hmm. He loves Bob Dylan, Billy Strings.
He's covered several of them lately,
and they're great. And how was Willie?
It's about the same as last year.
Yeah. Was
He
he okay?
he was good. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
he
mean,
was.
his voice, I think, was maybe even weaker than last year.
Mhm.
Was he able to do his
Yeah.
solos and
Oh
stuff?
yeah. Well, he plays for an hour, and his son sings a couple
Yeah,
songs, and
yeah.
then Waylon Payne
Right.
sings
Yeah,
a song.
Willie will randomly tell him, "Hey, take a verse."
Yeah. So
Did so Bob didn't bring out his harmonica player
No, no,
to
Mickey never came out.
I felt like
Mickey
there was
Raphael.
a weird quality to Willie Nelson's voice. It felt to me like maybe it was over amplified in
Mm,
order to prevent him from having to project it. Does that
yeah.
make sense?
No, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know technically what was done, but it sounded his voice sounded a little processed.
Turned up the gain a little
Yeah.
bit too
Yes.
much. Yeah.
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 But he's 92.
Yeah. It's
Like,
amazing that
it's
he's
amazing.
doing this.
And yeah, he can play guitar at 92.
Yeah,
And the fact that like, I don't think he was at death's door, but like his family said he wasn't doing great about a month ago. We didn't know what the or 2 months ago what the status was going to be. So that's amazing. So you guys stayed through the whole thing.
Yeah, well, we went to the very back where I wouldn't bug anybody by being on my phone writing my review
During
for
your
ways
yeah.
all the way through it.
Yeah, amazing.
But I was still just so buzzed from the Dylan show.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Like
So
calling people and babbling incoherently.
right. All right. So highlights. Adam, give me 3 highlights.
3 highlights: Tambourine Man, Rainy Night in Soho, and the third, it's like a 9-way tie.
Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough.
The solo on Under the Red Sky. Let's
Okay.
just say that.
Great.
The solo and the guitar, then harmonica solo.
Amazing.
I'm gonna say Rainy Night in Soho, Tambourine Man, and the vocal delivery of Route 66.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Amazing. I was not expecting that for your final one. So there you go. Anything else you want to say about this?
Yeah, I just want to say, as an overview of the whole show, I've seen 95 Dylan shows total, and 19 of those have been since he came back from the pandemic. I saw 17 Rough and Rowdy shows and now 2 Outlaw, and out of those 19, this was my favorite since the first show in Milwaukee, the first
2021.
This is my favorite show since then, for the same reason. It blew my mind. It was one surprise after another.
Yeah.
And that's what you want out of a Dylan show.
Yeah.
So it was a very special show. And I said to Adam earlier today, the theater shows are the best way to see him is in a medium-sized theater or a small theater. But this show proved it really doesn't matter. In the end, it's like it's the performance that matters. And even if you're far away, you know when something truly special is happening, and it was worth it 1,000 times.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, this might have been just the surprise factor always makes it so much fun. Like Milwaukee 21 isn't necessarily the very best show that I saw out of all the Rough and Rowdy shows I saw. And I saw some great ones. But it was a very good performance, and the surprise factor just kind of elevates it above everything else. And this too is like really with this, it felt like a whole different band. It felt like this is a sound and a vibe that they have carefully crafted. This is a whole new show.
Much like we've talked about the Rough and Rowdy Ways, it's a vibe, it's a crafting of a specific thing.
Yeah, and I think Bob pays more attention to who his audience is than he gets credit for. A lot of people say, oh, well, he gives you what he wants, not what you want. But he knows this is a different crowd. He knows he needs a bigger sound. So, I mean, we talked about how in the spring, he's never played a show that was less guitar driven, because that's what he can get away with in a theater. It's like, I couldn't even hear Bob Britt on a lot of songs. Like, when I Paint My Masterpiece, I mean, everyone was saying, oh, that's a new arrangement. He's not doing the Istanbul putting on the Ritz arrangement. It was that arrangement, but you couldn't hear Bob Britt doing the riff. You could only hear Doug. And here it's like, this is an electric guitar driven show because he knows that's what it takes to put these songs across. Do you know what I mean?
Totally.
Yeah.
Amazing. Great. Well, I know we're scheduled to see some more down the road. I'm headed to the birthday show and the Gorge. Clarksville, Michigan, possibly.
Yeah,
Blossom.
Cuyahoga the next
Cuyahoga
day.
Falls, Blossom.
Jones Beach.
Jones Beach.
Yeah.
I might go to Albany. Who knows? A friend texted me yesterday, who lives in Houston. Fly to Houston for the Aaron, of course. Aaron Callan has invited me to Houston, so who knows? But
When's Houston?
July 6th. So these are things I know now. You know, like the date of these things. You know, like I know.
Austin is July 4th. That's Willie's picnic.
Yeah, that's Willie's picnic, which is slightly separate from the Outlaw show.
Yeah, it's not part of it.
It's not part of it. And then, of course, Deer Creek in September 18th and Alpine Valley September 19th.
I want Alpine Valley to be my 100th show.
Where's Deer Creek? You can line that up. That's in Indiana.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's do that. That'll be 99.
Perfect. Great. All right.
Yeah,
Well, thank you.
100th show, Michael.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.